Hi everyone, and welcome to our webinar, How to Respond to Negative Reviews on Glassdoor. Thank you for taking the time to join us. We're going to get started. My name is Shay Berry. I am joining you from Dublin. Super happy to be on the same time zone. I've recently relocated here, so I'm glad to not be doing this webinar in the middle of the night. All right, a couple webinar tips just before we get started. First of all, make sure you can hear me. Connect to audio using your mic and speakers, or you can go ahead and dial in using your telephone. You will all be muted just to avoid some of that background noise. And I want to make this session as interactive as possible. It's a short and sweet 30-minute session, so as you have questions, make sure that you go ahead and type them into the question and answer pane, and I will go ahead and try to answer as many as possible at the end of our webinar. All right, so that's me. As I mentioned, my name's Shay. I am a Senior Marketing Manager of EMEA based out of our Dublin office, which is brand new, so that's very exciting. I'm here today to talk about something that I'm actually super passionate about. So believe it or not, I love actually talking about employer branding. So I spend most of my days at Glassdoor really marketing the importance of your employer brand. And today I want to tell you a little bit about how reviews factor into that. So how you can effectively manage them and respond to them. I also love to tell stories. So I want to give you a couple of stories and examples of companies that really tell their company story well and really focus on managing their reputation. So really the goal for today is to just give you one or two key takeaways to take back to your company and have you start doing right away. All right, brief agenda. So we're going to talk through about how your brand relates to reviews, and then we'll talk about something that people don't typically always realize, and that's that bad reviews can actually turn into a recruiting advantage. They're not always bad for business. We'll talk about how you can get started in responding to reviews and with Glassdoor, and then we'll wrap up with 5 tips to kind of keep in mind when you do decide to create a strategy around responding. And then, like I said, love to get to as many questions as possible at the end. Okay, so let's start off with what is an employer brand? So I want to open this up as a question and get to this next slide. So what I'd love to do is kind of talk about this quote. To kick things off from Jeff Bezos, CEO of Amazon.com, your brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room. So I absolutely agree with this. Companies can really say how great they are and how they're such a great place to work and shout it from the rooftops all they want, but ultimately, if your employees aren't happy, frankly, your brand will suffer. So a few things to ask yourself. The answers to these questions are, some of the components that make up your brand. So think about, would your current employees recommend your organization to a friend? I know employees' referrals are such a huge way to recruit employees, but are your employees recommending your company to a friend? Do they like working there? What are job seekers saying about you on social? Think about that. Think about, are some of your current employees engaging on social and talking about how much they love working at your company? Or are they complaining that they had another bad day at work? Start to kind of do that research. And then lastly, what is your company rating on Glassdoor? If you haven't gone on Glassdoor yet to kind of see what employees are saying about you, see what your rating is, that's the first step I would recommend. So it looks like we might be having some slide issues. Hold on, bear with me, everybody. All right, hopefully you're seeing the slides. Please chat me. That was very helpful. Want to make sure you see this deck and I don't just chat your ear off. Okay, moving on. So whether you kind of like it or not, your employees have a voice and they'll start to share it on sites like Glassdoor, and it's really likely that you are already on Glassdoor. If you haven't gone on there, go ahead and check. See if there's any reviews posted on there, if there's any salary information or interview information. Really do an audit to find out what you got going on. That's the best place to start. So what I like to tell people is to use reviews to find out more information about your company and its reputation. That'll let you know going forward, what kind of work you need to do to get your company in a good place, or if it's already in a good place, how to make it even better. Consider this really your first impression for many of your potential candidates, whether or not they are an active job seeker, if they're just doing a little research to find out about what's out there. And here's an example just of a quick review, so you can see kind of the layout. There's a pros section, a cons section, and an advice management. And then the rating is out of 5 stars. So that little blue box that is highlighted is where you will place your review, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so I'm not going to really read all the stuff on the slide, but I think the slide is super influential. What stands out more than ever is that 75% of candidates turn to peers before making a decision about their brand, or about a brand. So they want to find out straight from the source, what's it like to work there? They want the good, the bad, the ugly, a real honest look into what it's like to work at a company before they decide to make that decision and move forward. They're also somewhat weary when it comes to employer messaging without the reviews to kind of back it up. That's why reviews are so important. Pairing the reviews, the employee feedback with the employer's voice makes it more powerful than ever. All right, so basically the moral of the story is that it's really time for you and your employees to join the conversation. And the best way you can do that to start is really by responding to reviews. So, 3 steps to making your brand and company stronger. Think about embracing transparency. So the days of this kind of one-way conversation are over. The more transparent you are as an organization, the healthier your culture will be. In fact, employees are really seeking that transparency and that two-way conversation from management. They want to know what's going on at the company. Next is share what makes you unique. Don't be shy to go on Glassdoor, even if you just have the free profile. Post some photos, videos, company updates, things that make your company unique. Don't try to, if you're a small company, don't try to compete with the Googles. Just show what makes your company a great place to work and be yourself. And then lastly, getting executive support. So you can summarize activity on Glassdoor super easily. You can kind of package it up and hand deliver it to your executive team. And that report really points out the trends that are going on. It points out demographics of people researching your company. It shows a word cloud for our paying clients that really gives a quick snapshot at employee sentiment. So there's amazing reporting on the back end of your profile that you can easily hand to your executives and say, hey, this is something we need to manage. And if you have questions about that, happy to talk to you offline. Okay, so this stat, 96% of job seekers say that it's important to work for a company that embraces transparency. To me, this is kind of a no-brainer. Like, of course, who wouldn't want to work for a company that doesn't embrace transparency and hides what it's like to work there? I think it's just super important to note that almost 100% of job seekers are looking for that. That's something that will ultimately help them make the decision on whether or not they want to work at your company. All right, so let's talk about bad reviews. I recently wrote a blog post about this, and it's something that I really like discussing. It's a great question to think about. Are bad reviews bad? And I like to think, sometimes getting constructive criticism can sting. And your immediate reaction may be to get defensive or even offended. But what we have actually found is that before you go and do that, bad reviews can actually be good for your business. What I mean by that is job seekers and potential job seekers researching your company want complete information. They notice when there's no bad reviews and can sometimes become suspicious that maybe you're censoring feedback. So think about the last time you went on TripAdvisor, and you wanted to research a hotel to stay at on your next vacation. If you're seeing a perfect score, a 5 out of 5, you sometimes are like, what's going on here? There's not one review that's a little less than a perfect score. You kind of become a little suspicious. But think about this, you're not losing job seekers by showing bad reviews. You're actually steering them towards jobs and companies that won't disappoint them. So it's all about creating the perfect fit. You do not want to end up with, employees having buyer's remorse the second they join your company. And if you're putting out there that it's something it's not, and they come to find that out, that can be very expensive for your company. So we'll talk about that in a second. So basically it gives you a platform to actually improve your reputation. And I like this stat, 69% of Glassdoor members agree that perception of a company improves after they see an employer respond to a review. So that just shows how powerful it is right there. Okay, kind of common sense, but before you do respond, there's 2 important things you need to keep in mind because time and time again we keep seeing mistakes. So just a quick note, check before you post the review or the response for any typos. May seem silly, but once you post it, it's posted. So go ahead and type it in a Word doc or in a separate notes section, do a spell check, make sure it makes sense, and then go ahead and respond. And then also make sure that your job title is correct. So your title will appear right next to the response as soon as you push submit for your response. So make sure your job title is correct. And how you can do that is go into the Employer Center. And what that is, whether you're a paying client or not, you have an Employer Center, and that is kind of the back end of your profile. So that's where all the great reporting I talked about and kind of admin info is. So go ahead and log in there. You'll see the ability to go ahead and check out what your title says before it's posted. So just a few tips. And then we get a lot of questions, who from your company should respond. And I think, honestly, not the best answer, but it really depends on your company. It depends on the size of your company. It depends on, who at your company is in a position to speak on its behalf. Whether that be the CEO, of course we recommend that your CEO respond to reviews. I think that's really powerful. We'll talk about that in a second. If it's HR, a lot of times it's public relations, marketing, or, communications. I think it's important to have anybody that is responsible for managing your brand and your outward-facing communications. Make sure that they are the ones in charge of doing so. And then another cool thing that I've been seeing lately, just to mention here, is that we've been seeing a lot of companies have leaders in specific departments respond. So if a software engineer leaves a review, sometimes you'll see a CTO will respond. So somebody that's a leader in that section of the company, I think that makes it really powerful when job seekers or the person that left the review see that, oh wow, that person that understands what I do on the day-to-day, they took the time to respond. So kind of a very broad answer, but there's just a couple ideas for you. And how often should I respond? So, we've already said it time and time again how job seekers and employees find the employer's perspective useful when learning about new jobs and companies. So making sure that you are responding is crucial. How you can figure out, how often to respond is by setting up alerts. So you can do that in your Employer Center using even your free employer account. You can set up alerts so you know how often every time a new review is submitted. So kind of seeing how often that is will help you figure out how often you want to respond. If you're getting a ton of reviews a day, it's not likely you're going to respond to every single one. But if you're getting a couple here and there, definitely take the time. Maybe once a week at the end of the week, go through, see how many reviews you got, start responding, just kind of set that precedent. If it's once a month, if you're super busy, totally understandable, just make sure you're carving out that time. Maybe a Friday afternoon would be a good time to do this when you're kind of wrapping up your week. Whether it be weekly or monthly, just make sure you set apart that time to come through the reviews and respond. This will ultimately, build that trust with your candidates, and it shows you care, frankly. Okay, so now we're getting into the good stuff. So 5 tips to follow when responding to negative reviews. So tip 1, and I realize some of these may seem like common sense, but really they're important to truly think about. Number 1, being professional, being the bigger person. So ultimately, if you believe that somebody posted a review and they were out of line, a lot of times candidates and job seekers and others that see that review will come to the same conclusion. So use it as an opportunity to show that you're a gracious and understanding employer, and you're professional about it. I'd also like to add here, when you believe a person writing a review is false advertising, telling lies, accusing an employer of things, it's really crucial to take a deep breath, maybe even sleep on it for a night or two, and just take the time to reflect on it and then respond. So at Glassdoor, we take a neutral stance in all reviews. We do not act as the finder of fact. There could be false information posted by an angry employee. So in these cases, it's best to respond. You have the ability as an employer to flag the review. So quickly, a quick note about our review posting process. Our community guidelines are clearly posted on our website, so if you want to read, what gets posted versus what doesn't, go ahead and check that out. But basically, we have a computer system that every single piece of content that's posted on our website, it'll browse through, it'll look for different things like names and curse words and whatever it may be. So there's an algorithm and a system that comes to reviews, and then there's actually a set of human eyes. So we have a content team, and they read every single thing that gets posted on Glassdoor. And, as we grow and people are posting more content, obviously that's a ton of content. So sometimes things might slip through the cracks. That is why you have the ability to flag it, and we'll retake a look at it. So anyways, make sure that you kind of take a deep breath, be professional, be the bigger person, and kind of go into it with that mindset. And here's an example of that. So not the greatest review for WorldPay, but what they do is they say, what, we welcome all suggestions and ideas. We've had some issues going forward, and we recognize that we're on a path of growth. So it's a really professional and thoughtful response, and I really like the way this person crafted it. You'll see that that one was the director of recruitment, so just an idea of the title there. Tip number 2, say thank you. It can be something that we forget to do even in our everyday lives. But start by saying thank you. It shows that you're listening and sets you up in a position to be, a gracious and professional employer. So here is an example I think is super impactful for many reasons. So basically, Spencer Raskoff is the CEO of a company based out of the United States called Zillow, and what he does, you can see here, is that he tweeted this from a while ago, but I know he still does it. He tweeted, taking a few minutes of downtime to read and respond to reviews on Glassdoor. He is really passionate about carving out that time to go ahead and read the reviews, respond, and I'll tell you how that benefited him in 1 second. So let's take a look at a response he did. He starts by thanking them for a great review. Great set of the stage. So the review is not so hot. So he says, I recognize you have a hard job. You're at the front lines, and it's sometimes hard to do your job. But he's grateful to you and the person's team for the hard work that they do. Anyways, you can read through this. It's a great response. And as a result, actually, of having their CEO respond to reviews, Zillow reported that 4 candidates in a recent 30-day period said that after reading the response from Spencer, that actually solidified their decision to accept a job offer. So that is huge. So whether or not you respond to reviews can literally be a deciding factor in if a candidate comes to work at your company. You can use it as a recruiting advantage. And I know Spencer would not want us to share that with you, but a quick little tip for all of you out there. I just think it's so powerful. So take a minute to think about how this could benefit your company. It's a free way to actively show you care, ultimately leading to more candidates. Tip number 3, addressing specific issues. So it really is important to address those issues and also show what your plan is to fix those cons that were mentioned in the review. Don't shy away from being authentic. You know, it really is important to address both pros and cons. Nobody's perfect, not even Glassdoor, believe it or not. You know, there are some negative reviews posted on there, and it's important for the employer to go into it and kind of show their authenticity and that they care about their employees. So almost consider this free advice to making your company better. And a company that I think does that well is Canon EMEA. They got a review. They thanked them for their input. You know, they recognize that they're a huge company, and it's true that things sometimes move slowly and that they don't like that. But they want them to be aware that there's a number of projects and things that they're working on and that person can get involved in, and I think that's a truly authentic response. It shows like, hey, we recognize things are sometimes not moving in a great way, but we're doing some things to try to make it more proactive, and if you have any ideas, let us know. Love that example. Okay, next is being authentic. So we kind of just touched on this, but let candidates know the real you. Set expectations up front. Do not use staged responses. As tempting as it is, please do not post like a canned response in a Word doc and then open it once a week and post it. You know, rather than perfection, today's candidates just want transparency. They want that authenticity. And like I mentioned earlier, you do not want employees to wind up with buyer's remorse when a job they get doesn't meet their expectations down the road. That's just a waste of time ultimately recruiting that person. And it's a waste of money because your churn will be higher. So you want to make sure you set up candidates with expectations of what it's actually like to work at your company. And here's another example from ARM Holdings. So thanks for leaving a review. You'll see it was posted by social media or social recruiting manager, so that was the right person for them at the time. They say, hey, if you have bandwidth and you want to have better projects, feel free to ask for it. There's plenty of opportunity here at ARM Holdings, and we want to make sure that you're happy whether or not it be transferring to another team. I think that's really cool. I like that response a lot. And lastly, excuse me, utilize the reviews to fix problems. So I already mentioned this, no company is perfect. But just like with the negative, we're kind of focusing on that today. Make sure that you're responding to the positive as well. Use these pieces of advice to make your company a better place. So even if somebody's saying, hey, this is really great, we should do more of this, that's a positive. Or someone saying, hey, this is not so great, let's not do that. This is just free advice to you and your team and, you know, for your executive team to make sure employees love working at your company. Because ultimately, if they love working at your company, they'll be more productive and engaged employees. And here's an example of that. Harrods, not a great review. Here's their response. You know, we're really sorry you've had a not great experience with us. We know that we have a ton of staff that actually do enjoy working here. So that said, you know, we don't get it right all the time. There will be times when we fall short. So we encourage this feedback, and please feel free to reach out more if you want to talk about it in greater detail. I think that shows them really, you know, understanding that although they're a huge company and they do have a ton of people that love working there, there might be a couple people that don't, and they want to do what they can to make sure they accommodate those people. All right, so finally, your action plan going forward. Getting feedback. So here's a few tips. So just going to load all these really quick. A couple things you can do to get that feedback. So maybe you're struggling with reviews. Maybe you only have 3 reviews and you know, you have 30 people at your company, or maybe you have 300 reviews and you have 30,000 people at your company. It's all about getting the employees engaged and getting that content on your Glassdoor page. So get recruiters to include a check us out on Glassdoor badge in their email signatures as they're emailing potential candidates, and even through the interview process. Offer those candidates the ability to check you out on Glassdoor. Ask new hires to submit reviews after their onboarding. So this is something we've heard a lot of our clients doing. So whether it be, you know, after 30, 60, 90 days, have that new hire leave a review and tell you what it's like so far at your company. Typically, you'll notice that they're really engaged and super happy. So use that as a way to kind of leverage more reviews. Send company-wide emails encouraging reviews. So this is something our CEO does at Glassdoor. He'll say, hey, it's that time of year again, and you know, we need to practice what we preach, so go ahead and leave a review. That's not asking for a glowing or beautiful review. That's just saying, I want to know what you think, so go ahead and do it. And that's really powerful to us. Placing signs and stickers around the office, encouraging employees, let your voice be heard. We have a ton of assets around all of this stuff on our website. If you go to employers.co.uk, you'll notice that, sorry, I said that wrong, glassdoor.co.uk/employers. I'll put that in your follow-up email as well. We have a ton of resources. So you can log on there, you can find stickers, you can find banners, you can get printed or different artwork you can go ahead and leverage. Post it around your office. Put some stickers up. Super simple things you can do. Kind of reminds employees to leave reviews. And lastly, communicating during team meetings that you'd like to hear from employees. Be genuine about this. You know, after you kind of make the decision to respond to reviews, go ahead and tell them, you know, we're working as a team of leaders and management to make sure this is a great place to work, so please leave a review. And it's important to not say, you know, please leave a great review. That is not authentic. And that will lead to that employee remorse. So just encouraging during any team meetings, whether it be a whole company team huddle or even your individual team, get your employees involved. That's really the moral of the story. And with 1 minute to spare, that is it. So I want to answer just a couple questions. It looks like there are a few questions regarding whether or not you will receive the slides and recording. Absolutely, I'll send those out as soon as I can by tomorrow morning at the latest. There's a question in there, should we respond to just negative reviews? And just kind of mention this, no, absolutely not. Respond to positive and negative. We tailor this webinar to kind of negative just because that's, you know, one of the first ways that people hear about Glassdoor and are really worried about getting started that way. But absolutely respond to the positive, and all of these tips go for that too. Say thank you, be professional, you know, use it as free advice. If somebody's loving the way you're doing something, do more of it. So it should absolutely be negative and positive. All right, how do you get started on Glassdoor? So first of all, go on Glassdoor, see if you have a company page. And what I'm going to do is in a follow-up email to this, I'll include all the materials as well as a link to your free employer account. So you can go ahead and click that, and what it'll do is just have you fill out your name and like your email and your company, just making sure you're not a robot. And what it'll do is it'll send back a link to your free employer account. So that it's a very bare minimum. You can go ahead and log in, and you can update your company information. You can add a couple photos, kind of spruce it up a little in there, and just become aware of what's actually in there. So you can log into what we talked about earlier, the Employer Center, the back end. You can start accessing some free reports, all that good stuff. So that'll be in an email to you. Is this something only large companies should be doing? No, not at all. This is something, frankly, everyone should be doing. And whether or not you have 10 reviews or like 10,000, which nobody has, but you should be responding to reviews. Make it part of your day-to-day, or make it part of your monthly strategy. It just sets you up in a better position. Like I've mentioned, even with Spencer at Zillow, it can even be a recruiting strategy, and that's free. It's completely free. Just set that time apart and make sure that it's something that you're focusing on. And with that, we are out of time. So if you have any questions at all or want to get in touch with somebody at Glassdoor, absolutely happy to set that up. My Twitter account is right there, but you can also email me at shay.berry@glassdoor.com. So thank you all. I really appreciate you taking the time to come to this webinar. I hope I answered some of your questions and gave you, you know, some good advice on how to get started with this. So with that, I thank you for attending, and we look forward to seeing you at another Glassdoor webinar coming up. Have a great rest of your day.